Before the wedding, I found out that my sister was pregnant by my fiancé. Family demanded that I let them build family, so I left. 2 years later she came tell shocking true. 2 weeks before my wedding, my life fell apart in a way I didn't think was possible. It was supposed to be the final stretch, the exciting part. Tom and I had been together for 3 years, and everything about us felt solid. I trusted him completely. I'd spent weeks obsessing over the details: the perfect dress, the seating chart, the flowers. My younger sister, Emily, was supposed to help me. She had been distant lately, but I figured that was just her way. She wasn't one for big, emotional moments, and weddings weren't her thing. When Emily called and asked to meet for coffee, her voice sounded strange. She was insistent, almost desperate. I asked if everything was okay, and she said, "I need to talk to you about something important." I thought she might be in some kind of trouble, so I dropped everything and went. She was already sitting at a table in the corner when I arrived. She looked nervous, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her purse. I asked her what was wrong, and instead of answering, she pulled something out of her purse and put it on the table between us. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at: a pregnancy test. "I need to tell you something before your wedding," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm 3 months pregnant, with Tom." It felt like time had stopped. My brain refused to process what she had just said. I stared at her, waiting for her to say it was a joke or some kind of mistake, but she didn't. She just sat there, her face pale and drawn. "We've been seeing each other," she continued, her voice shaking. "I thought you should know. We care about each other, and it happened before, well, before now." My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. "What are you saying, Emily?" I finally managed to get out. She started to ramble, something about how they didn't mean for it to happen and how she wanted to be honest with me before the wedding. I barely heard her. All I could think about was that my own sister had slept with my fiancé. "Get out," I finally said, my voice cold and unfamiliar even to me. She tried to say something else, but I cut her off. "I don't want to hear it. Leave." I went straight to my parents' house, still in shock, tears streaming down my face. I told them everything, hoping they'd be as horrified as I was, but as soon as I finished, my mom let out a heavy sigh, like I was the one making things difficult. "We already know," she said. I stared at her, my head spinning. "You knew?" My dad leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "If they want to have a child, they have the right to start a family." "You're seriously okay with this?" I asked, my voice breaking. "We think it's best if you step aside," my mother said, her tone almost scolding. "There's no point in getting in their way. They want to be a family." I felt like I was in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. They told me to leave and let Emily and Tom work things out, as if I were an outsider intruding on their lives. That night I packed my things and left. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I cut ties with everyone: my parents, Emily, even mutual friends. I couldn't stand the thought of any of them trying to justify what had happened. For 2 years I tried to put my life back together. I heard bits and pieces through family friends. Emily and Tom had a baby girl named Susie. They played the role of a happy little family, and my parents adored them. I put it all out of my mind as best I could until the day Emily showed up at my door, uninvited, holding her baby. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I hesitated when I heard a knock at the door. I peeked through the peephole and felt my heart sink. Emily. She was standing there, holding a baby on her hip. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't seen her since that day at the coffee shop, and I certainly hadn't told anyone where I lived. My friends knew I'd cut ties with my family, and I'd made it clear I didn't want them to give out my address. Obviously, someone hadn't listened. I opened the door just enough to see her. "What are you doing here?" Her face looked thinner, older, as if the weight of the last 2 years had settled on it. The baby Susie, I assumed, was quiet, her chubby hands clutching Emily's shirt. "I know I don't have the right to ask," she began, her voice breaking. "But I need to talk to you. Please." I thought about slamming the door in her face. part of me wanted to. But something in her expression stopped me. She looked desperate. 5 minutes, I said, stepping aside. She came in and said, I don't know where else to go. Tom left me. That caught me off guard. What? He left. He left me and Susie for someone else, she said, her eyes filled with tears. It's been months. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I had to tell you the truth. I stared at her, trying to understand what she was saying. What truth? She hesitated, setting Susie on her hip. Tom and I were together before you met him. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I didn't say anything, so she continued. We dated for a while, but it wasn't serious, she admitted. When you met him, I didn't even realize it was the same guy at first. He never told me he was seeing someone else, but when you introduced us, I knew. So did he. I felt like I couldn't breathe. You knew when I introduced you, and yet I didn't know what to do, she interrupted. I was hurt, but I thought maybe it was just a fling for him. But then he proposed, and I realized it wasn't. By then he was already cheating on you with me. I let it happen because I thought I loved him, and when I got pregnant, I thought it meant something. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You thought it was okay to ruin my life because you thought you loved him? Tears were now streaming down her face. I was wrong. He didn't love me. He betrayed me too, just like he betrayed you. And I forgave him because of Susie. I told myself we could be a family, but he left us. Her words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. For 2 years I'd told myself that Tom had betrayed me, that Emily had made a terrible mistake, but this was something else entirely. And Mom and Dad? I asked finally. They knew, she said quietly. They didn't want to tell you because they were embarrassed. They thought it would go away, but when I got pregnant, they wanted to protect me. I shook my head, feeling the anger rise again. They didn't protect you. They just abandoned me. She nodded and wiped her face. I know. And I'm so sorry for all of it. I was selfish, and I hurt you. I didn't know how to fix it. I looked at Susie, her big eyes staring back at me. She was innocent in all of this, but her presence was a reminder of everything I'd lost. I don't know what you expect me to do, I finally said. I don't expect anything, Emily said. I just wanted you to know the truth. And I hope that someday you would forgive me. I don't deserve it, but I had to try. I didn't answer. I didn't know if I could. After Emily left that day, I sat on my couch and stared at the wall for what seemed like hours. Her words played over and over in my head until they didn't even make sense. Tom had been with her first. He cheated on her with me, then cheated on me with her again. My parents had known all along and kept it from me. For 2 years I'd carried this version of events, where I was the one who was betrayed, blindsided. Now I learned that I'd been part of the betrayal from the beginning without even knowing it. It wasn't until later that night, after the sun had set, that I realized I hadn't eaten all day. I ordered takeout, hoping it would distract me, but I couldn't shake the memory of Emily standing in my living room, holding her baby and crying. The thing that haunted me most wasn't her tears, or even the truth about Tom. It was the way she looked tired, defeated, as if she had nothing left. She wasn't the sister I remembered, the one who always seemed so confident, if a little distant. She looked like someone who had been broken, and as much as I wanted to hate her, I couldn't ignore that. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought of Susie. I didn't want to admit it, but seeing her had stirred something in me. She wasn't just a reminder of Tom's betrayal. She was my niece. The next day, Emily texted me. Emily, I'm sorry I showed up like that. I know it was wrong. I just didn't know where else to go. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Me, who gave you my address? Emily Claire. I asked her, and she felt sorry for me. I told her I just needed to apologize. Claire was one of my few friends in this new town. I felt a flash of anger towards her, but pushed it aside. Emily had clearly gotten what she wanted. Me, I need time. I thought that would be the end of it, but a few minutes later she sent another text. Emily, I understand. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. It was so unlike her. Emily was never the apologetic type. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I'd always been the one chasing their approval, never quite measuring up. For the rest of the week, I threw myself into work, trying to pretend that none of this had happened. But it was impossible. Every time I had a quiet moment, my mind drifted back to her visit. By Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Claire. "Why did you give Emily my address?" I asked when she picked up. There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," she finally said. She sounded so desperate, and she had the baby with her. "I thought maybe it was time for the two of you to talk." "She told you everything, didn't she?" "Not everything," Claire admitted. "But enough. I didn't think she'd show up uninvited, though. That wasn't right." I sighed and leaned against the counter. "She told me that Tom left her. Did you know that?" "I heard something about it," Claire said. "I think she's really struggling, though. She didn't look well when I saw her." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell Claire she'd crossed the line, but another part of me knew Emily wouldn't have come otherwise. "I don't know what to do," I finally said. "You don't have to do anything," Claire said. "But maybe this is your chance to let go of some of that anger. For you, not for them." That night I sat with that thought, turning it over in my mind. I didn't want to forgive Emily or Tom, or my parents, but holding on to the bitterness hadn't made me any happier. Maybe Claire was right. Maybe letting go wasn't about them. The next morning, I texted Emily. "If you want to get together again, I'm free tomorrow. Bring Susie." The next day, Emily came to the park near my apartment. I chose a public place because I wasn't sure how this would go, and part of me was still uncomfortable with her sudden reappearance in my life. When I saw her, she looked even more exhausted than before. Susie was sitting on her hip, bright-eyed and clutching a stuffed rabbit. She smiled at me, a toothy grin that was so disarming I almost smiled back. We sat on a bench in the shade of an oak tree. Emily handed Susie a sippy cup and let her waddle a few feet away to play in the grass. "I didn't think you wanted to see me again," Emily said quietly. "Neither did I admitted. "But here we are." She nodded, picking at the hem of her sweater. "I've been thinking a lot about what I said the other day. About the truth. And there's something else you need to know." I stiffened, my mind racing. "What do you mean?" Her voice fell, barely audible. "Tom didn't just cheat on you with me. He also cheated on me before Susie was born." I stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about? You already told me that he left you for someone else." She shook her head. "No, that's not the point. I found out after Susie was born that he'd been seeing someone else while I was pregnant. I didn't want to believe it, but then I found proof. Texts, photos, everything." I felt a wave of nausea. "Who was it?" Emily hesitated, looking like she was going to cry. "It was Mom." The words hit me like a freight train. "What?" "She and Tom were having an affair," she said, her voice shaking. "It started while they were still engaged. That's why they were so insistent that I keep quiet and let them be a family. You were protecting yourself, not me." I sat there, stunned into silence. It didn't feel real, but at the same time, it explained so much: the way my parents had brushed off what Tom and Emily had done to me, the way they treated me like an inconvenience when I'd confronted them. "You're serious?" I finally managed to say. Emily nodded. "I only found out because Tom left his email open one day and I saw messages from her. When I confronted him, he admitted it. He told me they were just having fun, but I think it was more than that." I didn't know what to feel. Anger, disgust, betrayal, it all hit me at once, and I couldn't stop the tears. My own mother. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because you deserve to know the truth." Emily said. "I've been carrying this for so long, and I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. Not after everything I've done to you." I looked at Susie, who was giggling like she was trying to catch a butterfly. She had no idea of the chaos she'd been born into, and I envied her innocence. "What do you want from me, Emily?" I asked finally. "Nothing," she said. "I just wanted to tell you. I don't expect you to forgive me or her or anyone. I needed you to know." I stood up, my legs unsteady. "I need time to process this." Emily nodded and stood as well. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here if you need to talk again." As I watched her walk away with Susie, 1,000 thoughts swirled in my head. For 2 years I'd blamed Emily and Tom for ruining my life. But now I couldn't help but wonder, had my mother been orchestrating this all along? And if she had, how deep was her betrayal? After Emily's revelation, I couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. My mother. The woman who had comforted me through skinned knees and broken hearts, who had spent years telling me to always do the right thing, she had betrayed me. The thought consumed me. Every memory of her now felt tainted, every word she'd ever said shrouded in suspicion. For days I vacillated between anger and denial. But the more I thought about it, the more pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Her indifference when I told her about Emily and Tom. Her insistence that I let them be a family. The way she'd practically pushed me out of their lives without a second thought. I couldn't just let it go. I needed proof. I started with my old emails. Years ago, my mom and I had exchanged dozens of messages about wedding planning, venues, decorations, schedules. It felt like a long shot, but I dug through them anyway, looking for anything that might corroborate Emily's story. It didn't take long to find something that made my stomach turn. In one of the email threads, buried under a reply from my mom, was a stray message from Tom. "Dinner tonight? Can't stop thinking about you." I stared at it, my heart pounding. It was easy to miss, probably why I hadn't noticed it before, but now it stood out like a glaring neon sign. Dinner with my mother? While he was engaged to me? I began to search for more. But if there had been other emails, they were long gone. The next step wasn't something I was proud of, but I knew my parents' habits. My mom kept everything: old receipts, paperwork, even outdated technology. If there were answers, they'd be in her house. I drove back to my hometown on a gray, rainy day, my heart heavy with dread. I hadn't been back since I left, and seeing the familiar streets felt surreal, like stepping into a time warp. When I pulled into the driveway, my dad's car was parked out front. My mom's wasn't there, which was a relief. I wasn't ready to see her. He opened the door, surprised to see me. "Hey, this is a surprise," he said. "I just need to grab a few things from my old room," I said quickly, brushing past him. Upstairs, I went straight to the boxes they kept in the closet. My hands shook as I dug through them, sorting through old receipts, birthday cards, and junk that no longer meant anything to me. Then I found an old smartphone. One I distinctly remembered my mom using before she upgraded a few years ago. I turned it on, my heart pounding. To my surprise, it still worked. And when I navigated to her messages, I found exactly what I feared and expected. The text between her and Tom began innocently enough. "Thanks for helping with the planning. The venue looks amazing." But they didn't stop there. "You looked beautiful today. I can't stop thinking about last night. Wish we didn't have to hide this." The timestamps were from months before my wedding date. Months. My stomach churned as I scrolled through them. There was no mistaking what this was. Emily wasn't exaggerating or confused. My mother and Tom had been having an affair behind my back while I was planning to marry him, while he was also cheating on me with Emily. I clutched the phone, unable to process what I'd found. My dad called up the stairs, asking if I was okay, but I couldn't answer. I shoved the phone in my pocket and left without a word. When I got back to my apartment, I stared at the phone for hours. I could confront her, call her, send the messages to everyone in the family. But what would it change? She had already made her decision. So had Tom. And they clearly didn't care what it would do to me. But for the first time I realized something. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their excuses or explanations. I was free of them, free to start over, free to live my life without the weight of their lies. And maybe, for the first time in years, I could finally begin to heal.